Aloha, and welcome to Thumbing Through Yesterday, the podcast where we take our favorite books down from the shelf, blow the dust off, and remind ourselves why it is we love them so. My name's Tom Galley, and joining me today we have Tony Pasculi.
Happy to be here.
And it is a banner day today, fans and listeners. Today is our 100th episode.
Holy moly.
Can you believe?
Hard
we
to
have
believe.
done this 100 times. 100 books we have revisited since we started.
Hard to believe someone can have that many favorite books. I guess we only had 50 each, though.
So far.
Yeah.
We'll see at the 10-year anniversary, right?
Yeah.
All right, well, what are we reading today?
Today we are reading, among others, Hugo and Nebula award-winning novel by Jo Walton. And in fact, that is how I discovered it, because I made myself a little challenge to read all the Hugo winners, and I just went plowing through, and I stopped at some point when I got to the Mars trilogy, which I didn't care for. I said, I'm not reading the rest of those. But this was the highlight of that experience for me. This book justified that entire challenge because I love this book so much.
Why.
Yeah. And it's a cheat. I mentioned it's a cheat because it's not from yesterday. It's from like 10 years ago, maybe
2011.
less. Oh my gosh. Okay, 14 years ago now. But and I love it, but I can't say it's a favorite because I've only read it once before.
I find that hard to believe.
Yeah. I was delighted to revisit it, though. Yeah, so we'll talk about all the reasons why it's an amazing book that you should definitely buy as soon as you're done listening to this. If not,
or
pause
don't wait.
this.
I mean, you're listening on a device right now. You can probably buy it with a couple of mouse clicks.
Stop listening to this, buy the book, read it, and then come back.
Indeed. All right, well, clearly I've enjoyed this too, but let's start with you. Why? What is it about this that endears it to you so?
Oh my God, two things. No, three things, really. One, that the tone is phenomenal. Just she captures this moment, this mood in this young girl's life that is hopeful but melancholy. It reminds me very much of Kazuo Ishiguro's Never Let Me Go, which is a very long literary novel with a science fiction twist to it that is just striking in this sort of mood that it captures. It's a very ordinary book in most ways. It's just about a girl living her life, going through some calamities, having some minor victories, but also not. Mm-hmm. And it has probably the best prologue of any prologue I've ever read. So, and I'll tell you the prologue, which is that she and her twin sister are going to do some magic on behalf of the fairies, and something goes badly wrong. And the prologue ends like this. I'm telling that part first because it's compact and concise and it makes sense, and a lot of the rest of this isn't that simple. Think of this as a memoir. Think of it as one of those memoirs that's later discredited to everyone's horror because the writer lied and is revealed to be a different color, gender, class, and creed from the way they'd made everybody think. I have the opposite problem. I have to keep fighting to stop making myself sound more normal. Fiction's nice. Fiction lets you select and simplify. This isn't a nice story, and this isn't an easy story, but it is a story about fairies, so feel free to think of it as a fairy story. It's not like you believe it anyway.
Yep.
I read that, I'm just like, that's it. I'm in. I'm hooked.
It was a fantastic way to pull you in, and in a way you kind of need that because this unfurls at a time. In times it's very confusing. It
is very confusing. We talked about confusing books last time.
We did,
and this is different. Shares some similarities.
But yeah, it was. I don't even know where to begin. I was trying to tell Hannah. She asked me what the book was about, and as I opened my mouth to answer it, I realized I don't know how to answer this. One interesting thing I found is that it kind of lacks a plot of any meaningful sort. I mean, it's literally just a diary of this 14-year-old girl who turns 15 during the course of the book. And, what happens over, I didn't even look at the dates. I'm guessing it's slightly over a year of her life or slightly under a year of her life. Mm-hmm. And although there are elements that recur, you don't have any sort of build-up to anything. And then what happens at the end is clearly a climax, but we didn't drive to the climax.
There is no narrative drive, which is something that normally makes me crazy in a book. Yeah, I mean it's the classic thing when you write is you have to keep the reader asking what's next, what happens next. There's no point in this book when you're wondering what happens next. You're just like, okay, just tell me, give me your next diary entry.
I did spend a lot of time wondering what had happened before.
Yes.
And in fact, as she lets in her diary these little statements fall that are references to whatever it was that went down between her twin sister, and her mother, I started highlighting them and adding the word clue to them, determined that by the end of the book, if it hadn't been explicitly made clear, I was going to go back through and find everything that said clue so that I could put it together.
Yeah, so we find out fairly early on that her twin sister has died in some sort of tragic circumstances, and also that her mother is a witch.
An insane, evil witch.
Yes, an insane, evil witch. But we don't hear a lot about what happened to her sister specifically, and it's just kind of left hanging as not important as she gets on with her life, and she has to deal with the consequences of running away from home.
And she herself is crippled now.
Yes, yes.
Whatever it was that killed her sister destroyed her hip and her leg, and she's hobbling around throughout the whole story as a result of that.
Yeah. And that's just left hanging for the longest time. And yet it doesn't bother me. It intrigues me. And
I was so intrigued, I kept taking notes to say, this is a clue.
And then the other thing I think, okay, this idea that a short story, you have to have some sort of change in the main character, right? And it's just like we start from one something and then something happens, and it can be a very, very subtle shift. And here I think that's what happens is we get just a subtle shift in the main character. There's some plot stuff happens. She goes to live with her dad, who immediately ships her off to boarding school because he lives with his sisters, who are also witches.
Yep.
But that's a minor thing. It's really just her getting to the point where she can deal with what happened to her sister. And she doesn't deal with it overtly. It's a very subtle thing, just like a change of perspective as she gets older. Yeah.
She gets older. Her sister's spirit is trapped in the realm, and she has a couple of encounters with that spirit and realizes that the spirit is not aging, and that she's becoming more and more separated from her sister in multiple ways.
Yeah.
That was kind of poignant.
And a little bit scary, too. And her sister wants to drag her through with her. Stay with us. Join the fairies. Be a fairy. Live with us forever.
The fairies are all in favor of this.
Yeah, and she's like, I can't do that now. Yeah. Yeah, it's incredible. This is a slightly autobiographical novel by Jo Walton, apparently, but it's not clear how much. And
she apparently spent some time on a cane when she was a youth, and apparently spent time in boarding school as a youth.
Yeah. She does write this wonderful little thing in the acknowledgments. People tell you to write what you know, but I've found that writing what you know is much harder than making it up. It's easier to research a historical period than your own life, and it's much easier to deal with things that have a little less emotional weight and where you have a little more detachment. It's terrible advice. So this is why you'll find there's no such place as the Welsh valleys, no coal under them, and no red buses running up and down them. There never was such a year as 1979, no such age as 15, no such planet as Earth. The fairies are real, though.
Yep.
It kills me. It's so good. She's so good. And yet I've never gone on to read anything else she's written, so I need to rectify that.
Her name came up in one of our more recent podcasts, and I can't remember why. Did she write a foreword to something, or?
I don't know.
I don't remember. I just remember that the name had come up as we were sitting here recording something unrelated. It was a foreword. The more I think about it, the more I'm sure it was a foreword to one of the books we've done relatively recently.
I think you're right. I think she wrote the foreword to something.
Yep.
Yeah.
And that was the first time I had become aware of her name.
Yeah.
But having read this, I'm certainly interested in seeking out some other stuff.
Yeah. So we haven't even talked to, the third reason to love this book, which I'm sure resonated with you also, is that this girl finds solace in science fiction.
She does.
And she's about a year off from my age. I didn't do the math to figure out which direction it was. So she's reading all the same books that I read when I was that age. And it's just like, oh my God, yes.
You spoke of a challenge earlier when you were going to read all the Hugo books.
Yeah.
I think a fantastic challenge would be to read everything listed
Yes.
in this book. Oh my God. And she is voracious. She talks about consuming, 4 or 5 books in the course of a school week.
Yes.
And there's even one. Okay, there's multiple places where she's not boasting. It's just comments.
Yeah.
I wanted to check the bookshop, and 8 books sounds like a lot and feels like a lot, but it isn't as if they'll last me all week. She's gotten 8 books from the library, is on her way to the bookshop, to one of 3 or 4 bookshops that she frequents.
Yes.
8 books are not going to last her a week.
Well, she does have a lot of downtime for reading because she does not play sports. So she's excused from the sports period at the school, and she just takes that time to read. And there's something else she doesn't participate in, and so she reads during that time also. And then she essentially has no friends. So in the evening when all the friends are doing things, she's just sitting around reading also. I mean, she fills her life with books.
Late in the book, this is just pushing that same button. I'm beyond the stage of reading the whole library in alphabetical order, although I'm glad to have done it once.
Yes.
I really want to know which library that was.
I'm hoping that was a library on the smaller side. I couldn't have done that with my hometown library.
Maybe her mother's library. I don't know.
Yeah.
There's just so much fun here. She gets introduced to Zelazny as part of a book group that she either falls into or creates.
Yes.
We need to talk about magic at
Yes.
some point. But, well, that reminds me. What else has Zelazny written? Tons, apparently, but almost none of it in print.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Which I guess we're actually living in kind of a resurgent age when these old books that have been out of print for so long are now becoming available as POD or ebooks.
Yes.
There's a couple I'm still waiting on to feature
Oh, yeah?
on the podcast. Yep.
Yeah, and it was... This is the other thing that I remember from growing up, because I, of course, grew up before the internet, and yeah, it was just an endless chore to get the books I wanted to read. You could not get them. They didn't have them in my library. They didn't have them in my bookstore. I would try to get stuff through interlibrary loan. I joined the science fiction book club, which is where I discovered Zelazny, and I would get stuff, shipped to me that way. But then you're just picking random whatever. It's like, oh, it's going to cost me 10 cents for a book. I'm going to pick the one with the most page count.
But they'd have the whole trilogy, and it only counted as a single selection.
Exactly.
Towards your total. Yep.
Yes. Yeah.
Yep. Bought a lot of books that, meh.
Yeah.
Oh, well.
Yeah. But it didn't matter. It didn't matter to me then. It doesn't matter. Well, she's a much more discerning reader than I was. Yeah. I would read literally anything when I was in high school. I didn't care. Yeah. I read The Idiot by Dostoevsky, for God's sakes. It's a terrible novel. Terrible and long and very, very Russian. Yeah, so.
Well, since I mentioned it, magic.
Yes, tell me.
I just love the concept of magic in this. And it's, as she says repeatedly, it's just so easy to discount. Because it's not you chant a word and a thing happens.
Yeah.
You put an intention out there, and there can be some ritual to it. The fairies told her to throw a thing. Oh, how did they do that? They threw something into the
comb in a
pond.
bog.
They threw a comb in a bog, and then a guy dies.
Yeah.
And then there was something else that they threw into a pond, like a leaf into a pond or something like that.
Yes.
And the factory closed down the next day.
Yeah.
And you have to say, well, no. The factory didn't abruptly close. That had been coming, right? Whatever had happened to close the factory down had started months ago, maybe even farther than that. But that's the magic, because it actually reaches back through time and recreates.
Yes, I love that.
And she starts thinking about the fact that, she's on the street and it's raining and her leg hurts and she's got her arms full of books, and she thinks about trying to magic a bus just around the corner. And then she stops and thinks about how far back in time that would ripple, because the whole bus schedule would have to be changed, and everybody that rode that bus, their schedules would have to be changed. And there's no telling what might come of such a change like that.
Yeah.
So she really... It's just weird to think about.
It's interesting. It's a very sort of solipsistic view of magic. If I do magic, then I'm becoming the most important person in the universe, which bends entirely to my will. And in fact, she brings up Ursula K. Le Guin's Lathe of Heaven quite a bit, which is a similar sort of... I don't know if you've read that one.
I have not.
It's about a guy who has dreams. He's visiting a psychiatrist, and it turns out that his dreams come true. And his psychiatrist realizes this, and rather than curing him, uses him to shape the world in the psychiatrist's desire.
Wow.
Yes. It's an intense book, and it does not go the way the psychiatrist hopes.
Of course it can't. Her mother attacks her. She gets put in boarding school. We mentioned that. Her mother attacks her magically, so she begins working on protection magic. She decides it's okay. But then while she's in the middle of that magic, she decides she wants to be part of a Karass, which she's a Vonnegut fan.
Yes,
Woo-hoo!
Yes, she is.
Made me so happy. So she just kind of tosses that out there as an afterthought. I want to be part of a Karass. And then the next day, a librarian in town, one who had never had any time for her before, invites her to this book club. And suddenly she starts freaking out, thinking, oh my God, did I will this book club into, have I disrupted all these people's lives back through time so that they would be here to be a book club for me to find?
Yeah. I love the fact that she has an ethical dilemma because she finds herself very attracted to one of the boys in the book club who's just a couple years older than her and very handsome. And he really likes her also. And she's like, oh no, that's part of it. That's part of it. I magicked him into this. And she finally confesses to this guy. It's like, I'm sorry, I don't think your affection is real because I created this whole thing with magic. And he immediately breaks up with her.
He threatens to break up with her.
Yes. And she goes, what? He's like, okay, yeah, see, I could break up with you. Then it's not by magic. Yeah, I have free will in this circumstance, so we can get back together if you want. She's like, okay. Yeah. I love that, though.
Although she quietly believes that it wouldn't prove anything unless they had actually broken up, but she decides to let the point go. Yeah, that's harsh to think about, what happens to the rest of reality. And the fact that her mother is just determined to keep doing this, to warp reality to her own ends.
Her mother is so deeply evil that she's not just personally evil, like she wants to make her daughter's life hell for some reason. She wants to rule the world. She wants to become the Dark Queen of the universe.
Everybody will love her in despair. She loved her Tolkien.
Yes, yeah.
The evil mother loved her Tolkien. Well, actually, the young girl does.
Yes. In fact, she steals Tolkien from the mother. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Now, is it Morgana or Morwenna? Because she talks about who she is and who her sister is, and then her sister dies, and then she starts to take her name.
Yes.
So I don't feel confident knowing which one. I don't know that it matters because they were both called Maury.
Yes. I don't know. Yeah.
But when I was looking for the publication date, and I went to Wikipedia, and then I glanced over the summary, and it's like, and they were saying this is Morgana. I'm like, no, this was Morwenna.
Yeah.
Well, not that Wikipedia is infallible, but
yeah, I recognize a point of confusion there for me, and just like I don't really care.
It does. It's not significant.
Yes,
you know, and in fact, it kind of reinforces that that dramatic ending where the fairies want them to become one again.
Yes. Yeah, not just to join them, for the sisters to become one. Yeah, which is a little bit creepy. Okay, it's a lot.
Yeah. Creepy. Well, fairies are fairies. Their motivations are not ours.
Yeah. I love the fairies in this book too. I mean, what a depiction of fairies. They are not human.
Most of them.
Yeah. Well, some of them are shaped like humans.
Yeah.
They're not ghosts, which is something that Wim posits. It's not clear what they are, and she speculates about where they came from and how long they've been here, and what they're. But it's just, at the end of the day, she's just like, they're fairies.
Yep.
Yeah.
She even tries to ask him about that, and in the typical fairy fashion, gets no direct answers.
Yes. Yeah.
Yep. It seems like some of them might be ghosts, and
possibly.
Yeah.
Possibly. Yeah. What else did I have to talk about on this one?
I took a ridiculous number of notes on this one. Too many, in fact, for me to scroll through easily.
Here's a okay. A good note and a bad note. So she reads Heinlein. She loves Heinlein. That's great. But then she hated Glory Road.
Yeah, I read that. It's like, that is not going to sit well with Tony.
Nope. Glory Road is deeply disappointing. I hate it. I stopped reading it.
She goes out of her way to diss it 2 or 3 times during the course of her diary and anti-recommend it to people.
Yeah. All right, but here's the good note, that she becomes the most prolific user of her school library, and the school librarian takes notice of her and starts gifting her books.
Which might have happened organically, or it might have been a result of the Caress spell.
Possibly.
Yeah.
But that is something that also happened with me. My librarian at my high school noticed that I was just reading more books than anyone else in the school and just started buying me a book every semester. It's like, I noticed you checked out this, this, and this, and this. Here's a book you might like. In fact, that's where I first read Moorcock.
Wow.
She gave me the Sword Trilogy, which is not an Elric book, but the main character in the Sword Trilogy is sort of like a parallel universe version of Elric.
One of the champions eternal.
Exactly, yeah. So,
Yep. Well, how fantastic.
yeah. There's a lot in this book that just resonated with me. Aside from the fairies,
Which you're not going to admit to.
no. But I will also say this, even though I had experienced no direct, overt magic in my life, that period of time is a time when just life feels a little bit more magical. Like things could happen. It's like, it's just around the corner. It's just out of sight. You know, your Goonies adventure is waiting to happen.
Yeah.
But it didn't quite. But it could have. Yeah. So, and here it does. And it's just, yeah.
Just scrolling through my highlights here, I highlighted so much. So many things were worth highlighting in this.
Yes.
But this is a passage, she's reflecting on where she is in life. She's been shipped off to a boarding school, more or less unloved. She's lost her twin. I saved the world, or I think I did. And look, the world is still here with sunsets and interlibrary loans. And it doesn't care any more about me than the Shire cared about the hobbits.
Yeah. I just so many passages that are just beautiful. She talks about herself being not like other people in some fundamental way.
Yeah.
Not just because she's half a twin, and not just because she reads a lot and sees fairies, not just being outside when they're all inside, metaphorically. I used to be inside. I think there's a way I stand aside and look backwards at things when they're happening, which isn't normal. I really like that.
Yeah. Gil may well be a lesbian. Fine, I have no problem with that. I'm not one, but I'm definitely with Heinlein and Delaney on this.
Yeah.
They love Heinlein. She loves Heinlein.
Yes. Okay, have you read any Delaney?
It's one of those names that feels familiar, but I can't attach a work to.
I have not. I don't think I've read any Delaney. I've run across the titles of books over and over and over again, and I just have never read one. Yeah. All right. Here's my one peeve on the book. I have a criticism.
Oh my!
I have a criticism. She spells Burnham Wood incorrectly. So,
she's Welsh,
Is it a Welsh spelling?
I don't know. I'm just offering that as a possible salvation.
Okay. She spells it not the way Shakespeare spells it. And I'm just like, what? What is it? Did I misremember this? Yeah.
Well, I don't recall Shakespeare being much on spelling.
That's true too. Yeah.
I mean, certainly what we see printed today is pretty consistent, but I don't think that was the case.
That's a good point. I should go back and look at the first folio and see how it was spelled.
There you go.
Yeah. But that's it. That's my only criticism. Freaking love this book. I was about 2/3 of the way through the previous book and just like, and I started reading the glossary and I'm like, oh no, I can't do that. And I picked this up and just blasted through it in like a day and a half and then went back to the other one.
This was just such a fun read. And when I put it down afterwards and I'm sitting there reflecting on it and thinking about stuff to say for the podcast, I'm like, wait a minute. I've just finished a book that's about a teenage girl, so young adult, and it didn't faze me at all. I've just finished a book that has no plot, and yet it was riveting. I couldn't, turn the pages fast enough. They're virtual pages. I couldn't tap the screen fast enough. Nothing freaking happened, and yet I just feel so good about this book. It was such a fun read. I would pick it up and start it again tonight.
Yeah.
To read it through a second time to see the stuff that I missed. There was only one spot in there that really, I thought, didn't flow.
What was that?
And that was when the fairies are trying to get her to stab herself so that she can join with her sister and become one and stay with the fairies. And, she's resisting and they're pushing the point. And then somehow she simply becomes fire. And as fire, she burns the wooden dagger away. And then as fire, she opens a portal. And as fire, she burns her sister so that her sister can go through the fiery portal. And then the fairies are retreating because she is fire embodied. And then she becomes a person again. And that, we've never seen magic wielded like that before. Everything else
true.
is just been
That's
these,
a departure.
these strings of coincidences,
Yes.
you know. And yet suddenly, and without apparently deliberate attempt or practice or anything, she simply just embodies fireness. That felt like, that came from left field for me.
Yeah. Interesting.
It was pretty cool.
That didn't bother me in the same way. It did bother me in that as soon as she became fire, I immediately thought of the Niffin in The Magicians, and I'm like, oh no,
Oh, okay. Yeah.
this is bad. You do not want to become fire.
Right.
That is bad. But it worked out. Yeah. But other than that, I don't know. Here's a question for you. And of course, you can answer this on many levels. Are the fairies real?
Well,
Or are they,
yes.
are they a coping mechanism for her dealing with her sister's death?
If the fairies are a coping mechanism, then there's an awful lot of hallucinatory world around here, a lot more than just the fairies, right? Because her mother traffics with the fairies and
Yes.
wields power because she sees signs of the power. Someone gave her that cane, right?
Oh, that was fascinating. Yeah, the fairies give her a cane.
Yeah, and I knew that was going to turn around on her somehow.
Yeah.
But because it's fairies, of course it is.
Yeah.
I think the fairies are real. I think that if you're looking at the fairies, you know, because Wim can see them, or at least pretends he can see them.
Yeah, that's interesting. We get sort of outside confirmation, but I also don't feel like Wim is completely reliable in this context.
Well, Wim might be playing along because, you know, he's a young male and
Yeah.
he kind of likes this young female, and he just might be willing to see, humoring her to see how it goes. I definitely get the feeling that Sam, that her father's father, could see them, and that he knew what was going on, both with her and with the three sisters that were controlling his son.
Yeah.
He was just somehow above it. He was a Tom Bombadil somehow.
Yeah.
I think I didn't see anything in this that made me question were the fairies real.
Okay. And we do get from Wim that he thinks he sees the fairies out of the corner of his eye, and then he touches the cane, the fairy cane, and he goes, "Oh shit, yeah,
Yep.
I see them." Yeah, yeah. And that's my impression also. I think the question has to be asked.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What a fun book. What a great read this was. Thank you for picking this one. I am so happy
I'm
to
glad
have
you
read
enjoyed it. Yeah. Yeah. I am always a little bit nervous about it's like bringing in a favorite that I've only read once because sometimes that goes badly. But this really holds up, and I will definitely be reading it again and again. And I like your idea of the challenge. I thought exactly the same thing of just listing every single book in here
Yep.
and reading them through. Because
But I mean, they go. I mean, we're talking about reading Plato here. if we're going to be literal
I've never
about
read
it.
Plato, and I should
But that, I think, for me, that would be a year-long project.
probably. I've never read James Tiptree Jr., and that feels like a massive oversight. Especially when she says that the collection of Tiptree's short stories is the best single author collection of short stories ever. Mm-hmm. I mean, that's a huge recommendation. So
This came out, as we said earlier, in 2011. So there are some pretty contemporary titles there. You know, and she's, you know, when she's writing this is 7980.
yes,
Right.
Yeah.
You know, so I mean, she was so thrilled when the second Amber book came out. When,
Yes.
Sign of the Unicorn came out, and they had a new Heinlein.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, how exciting
Oh,
to have a
remember
new
those
Heinlein.
days when you could find a new Heinlein on the shelf?
Yeah.
Yeah, that was so exciting.
New Heinlein and New Zelazny, all these.
Although it was Number of the Beast, and she only talked about reading the beginning of it, which she thought, oh, it starts well, because it's weird.
Even though it's Number of the Beast.
Yes.
Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy.
Oh, one of the things that was shocking to me, it all felt very safely in the past, and then she talks about the Russians invading Afghanistan, which, was in 1979 or 1980, I think. And that just felt weirdly contemporary and out of place. But of course it wasn't. It was perfectly in historical context, but it was so jarring to have that, what felt like a real world event intrude on this sort of magical, historical thing.
Yeah.
All right. I have more notes, but they would just be like quoting
Yeah,
quoting favorite passages, which I don't want to do.
I've got several dozen highlights, but it's all either cool stuff or hints about the fight with Mom.
Yeah.
Yep, I think I'm good.
All right. What is next?
We are going to really go into the way back here, and we're going to do some selected stories of Conan the Barbarian by R.E. Howard.
Conan the Barbarian. I think I've read one Conan short story, and I'm looking forward to seeing some more. Yeah.
All right. Well, we will see you in 2 weeks.
See you in 2 weeks.